Hello and welcome, dear Gnostic Takeover friends and family and community, and anyone listening to this who are still finding out what the Gnostic Takeover really is all about. Today I've got a special video for you that just came about the last hour after what has been a very challenging day of my life experience, and the way I like to handle all of this is to share, because in the words of the great man that is Paul Levy, the author of Dispelling Wetiko and many other books about Wetiko in particular, is that each one of us must pass through the archetypal struggle with demonic energy. This is initiation into the true Hermetic arts, into true Gnosticism. This is not just about intellectual knowledge, but especially also about the deep waters of emotions. So I've got a few slides prepared with you. The video is in a much better condition as I'm pre-recording this, and I hope you enjoy it. So we head right in. This is a special video for you to immerse yourself into perception and transforming perception out from any victim mentality that could impose itself on our greater being. And it is that victim mentality and a state of being of victimhood that is hiding the unbelievable power that can permeate through our being. I've been talking about the forces of ultimate power, using me as a conduit to express the language, the information about true Gnosticism, true power, and true sovereignty, to which I happily oblige and share with you this information. So I want to ask everyone, as it sounds a little bit like a guided meditation that it is not, however, let's mix things up a little bit. So you may just trust now in this moment. I don't mean to trust me necessarily, because you don't know me. And trust is only built over time, where you know someone and you get to know someone. So you should never misplace your trust into people who may seem trustworthy, but haven't we all had the experience that turned out to be exactly the opposite? So let's learn from our past mistakes. But let's just trust right now, because we know innately that trust is powerful and is necessary. Trust initiates us into heart-centered intelligence, and it's the trust that activates the magnetics. And magnetics discharge the entire electrical based artificial matrix control system. So trust. Let yourself be taken, not by me, but by truth of the one and only source. I personally, in the private, so I like to talk about law. Law is what happens in the private when you're no longer being distracted, fooled, and deceived by the public and what the public is thinking, what the masses are thinking and wanting to wake up the masses. That is a grand delusion and is part of the collective psychosis that has taken hold over most of humanity. However, there are some signs of awakening, and awakening is a deep process. I've got many gears to share with you. I am a multi-dimensional being and a very reflective being, which is one of my greatest strengths. I love myself for having the capacity to say I was wrong, and now I'm going to change my behavior. I'm going to change my actions according to what I've just become conscious of. Because what most people don't know, and this is one of the key essence that I've extracted from Paul Levy's work, is that evil, the nature of evil, and evil, one of the forms that evil takes a foothold in our life and in our world, is when we, as a self, as a sovereign being, the true self, when we become conscious of something and choose to willfully ignore what has just come from the unconscious into the conscious, that is how the seed of evil can germinate in our mind, and next thing we know, it can grow and take over our whole life, which is why we slay. As soon as we see evil start to get a foothold and grow as a seed in our mental capacities, the true art of Gnosticism is to slay that evil out of ourselves and aligning our behavior again to source guidance. So yes, I am a warrior. However, I am a wise warrior, which means I can say I was wrong. Oh, and now I see it better, so I'm changing my behavior accordingly. One of my favorite quotes is, "Every battle is won before it is ever fought." Very few people know what true law is. You know what true law is? One of the angles one can explain it. True law is by stating something before something happens. You set the law before something happens, because when you have set the law, and agents of the state or agents of the mafia ignore the law that you set, they lose immunity, and that is the very mechanism that makes them liable. It's a shachmat. That's what law is. Law is checkmating, which goes hand in hand with every battle is won before it is ever fought. You set the law, and then agents of Wetiko fall into the trap, and you get to earn a lot of money because of that. This is how powerful this knowledge is. You actually make money through knowing and applying the law. And as you know, my life experience has been very emotional over the past few weeks. Ever since I lost my soulmate, the best friend that I've ever had, and the first human being that ever understood me and that I understood. But it was pure resonance with the nature of our being, the dedication and discipline for freedom and the discipline for the truth. There's our great, great, amazing Errol Kaya. True Gnosticism in action. Bringing back ancient shamanism. What a beautiful being and what a beautiful gift he can share with the world. And my life has been very emotional ever since I lost Errol. And I have been putting a lot of work in to getting Errol back. However, it has not worked yet. After losing Errol, I started also with a video series that I called Decoding Wetiko and Decoding World War III, Decoding and Eliminating World War III. And it had as a picture of slaying bloodthirsty Wetiko, if you may remember. In those videos, I shared a lot of powerful knowledge and information. However, I also displayed massive amounts of anger coming up that were appropriate, obviously, because they'd just taken Errol. However, through that anger, I was making the germ of Wetiko grow in my being. Unconsciously, which is one of the underlying dynamics, not all of it, but one of the underlying dynamics that we then also had Leone taken out of our life. This doesn't take away from the criminal behavior of the intervening authorities. No. All I'm doing here is analyze, critically self-reflect my own behavior and my own complicity in the disappearance of not only Leone, but Errol. I'm not someone to put the blame only on the evil system and evil Wetiko. And Wetiko has taken them and now we're all victims. No. Remember, a warrior, but also, most importantly to know who I truly am, is a wise warrior. And that I need to recognize, because that emotional work and honest self-reflection, knowing that we have to be honest with ourselves, that's where the deception comes in, is when we deceive ourselves. And that self-deception has become so normalized that we don't recognize. However, you may also recognize through hearing me talk about my self-deception. So coming back to the point, when I lost Errol, I started doing videos where I showed lots of anger. And yes, it was appropriate, but that precipitated to make the seed of Wetiko germinate and grow within my energy field. And the next thing that happened is that they took Leone. So now I'm slaying that energy, that energetic connection with the germ of Wetiko through becoming conscious of it and eliminating by way of slaying the threat. Detect, decode, defect, seal and protect the situation. It always comes back to the four main principles of Gnosticism. It's true healing. And that's how I'm getting them back. Through this honest work. Gnosticism in action. So what do I mean by this? I'm a teacher. I'm many things. At times I'm a teacher. At times, because I am a man. I am a man who at times acts as a teacher. However, I'm also a man who at times acts as a student. However, I'm also a man who at times acts as the cook and cleaning the kitchen. There's many things that I can do as a multi-dimensional being. I'm not one thing. Always learning, always growing. So here we see, what do we see? It's a room, isn't it? A space. So let's be aware. Let's bring ourselves into the conscious attention of what we are observing. We are observing a space, three-dimensional space, in our perception right now. So what just happened? The room is not the be-all and end-all of things, but it's part of a bigger corpus called a house. Isn't that right? The truth is simple. And what I mean by that is, instead of focusing on isolated objects and events, expand your fixed perspective and allow a deeper process that is animating events to reveal itself. What I mean is transformation of perception. So what I mean is that by only focusing on what has happened to Errol and what has happened to Leonie, and we need to get them out because the system has taken them and I'm responsible for them, I have to get them out. Let us expand our focus on isolated objects and events and expand our fixed perspective and allow the deeper process that is animating events to reveal itself. Allow yourself to transform your perception of the situation. That's what it means. True healing is the healing of our perception and cleansing our perception, because our state of perception creates our state of being, that is our energetic state, the way we feel, our state of being, and that is the reality that we exist in. So our state of perception is our state of energetic being, is the reality that we're experiencing. So I can't afford to just view the situation as, oh, I've taken my friend Errol and Leonie and we have to get them back. The evil system know I have to ask the question, why were they taken? What's the learning lesson in all of this? And the learning lesson goes far deeper than we can imagine. We have to heal our perception of things, and this is what I call the Eagle-Thunderbird Medicine. So life that we're experiencing here on Earth, it's an intriguing ride, isn't it? It's a very intriguing experience. Fascinating. I mean, what a crazy world. And for all its ups and downs, for all its craziness and the collective state of psychosis that we can see with all the muzzle wearers and all the other craziness that's going on, there must be a reason why we're here. Our life has a deeper purpose than can be observed from just the surface level of reality. On the surface level of reality, everyone could think that everyone's gone nuts. Everyone's crazy. What is going on here? You may not have many people to talk with. You may feel alone oftentimes. I've only got to do with Errol and Liz and Leonie for a long time. And then Errol was taken, then Leonie was taken. It's just me and Liz left over. Yeah, it's crazy. However, there's a deeper process involved with life, and we can't all just pin it down on evil and how evil is. Because evil serves always a learning lesson. So with the life that we're living is like in this, the life that we're experiencing is like in this frame, in this picture that we can see here. However, the Eagle-Thunderbird Medicine makes us look into life from the outside and all of the ups and downs. It's like the swinging pendulum. Inside the picture, when we're experiencing life in our everyday life, we get to feel all of the different emotions during the day. We get to experience this, we get to experience that, and then this happens, and then this fails, and then we're all upset, and then sometimes we're happy again, and then our hope goes up again, and maybe humanity can save itself from the grips of self-destruction, and then it can't save itself because they're all gone crazy, everyone's psychotic, and why am I in this situation? The drama of life that is only inside that frame of the picture, your frame of mind, as it is also very appropriately called. You're in a state of mind, a frame of mind. Are you being framed? Or are you creating your own frames for your own vision of imagination? Well, that's another topic of discussion for another video. The emotional up and down is inside this picture. However, we can extract ourselves and our perception outside of that picture, outside of the emotional roller coaster ride of the Matrix. It is possible by the very fact that I can even explain this to you through the use of picture, which is a perfect exemplification that this perception not only is possible, but is natural to our being. And another example I want to give, as a man who at times acts as a teacher, is that inside the roller coaster ride of the Matrix, inside this picture, is where the pendulum swings. The swings of the pendulum to the left, to the right, and it's an up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, to quote the great Bill Hicks. Life's like a ride in an amusement park. The pendulum swings inside of the picture, inside of the frame of the picture, in our state of mind of experiencing life. The pendulum is swinging according to emotions, energy in motion. When you move your perception, the Eagle-Thunderbird Medicine, outside of the picture and you're looking into this reality, the pendulum is still. You're now in the 0 point energy field of the complete overview. Not being deceived through the emotional control system of the Matrix. You are now outside of the Matrix. Trust. Let yourself be taken by a higher truth. The fact is that this life is more wondrous than we often remind ourselves that it is. The conditioning goes very deep into our cellular biology and into our genetics. We're so overwhelmed by the daily input of information, so overwhelmed by life inside the picture, the swinging pendulum of emotions, so overwhelmed by all the events happening around us. However, I will re-emphasize again, trust. Let yourself be taken. Instead of focusing on isolated objects and events of your life, even your life today, instead of focusing on isolated objects and events in your life, expand your fixed perspective and allow a deeper process that is animating events to reveal itself. Our life is the most mysterious thing that we will ever find out. We, our true self, is the most mysterious things. It's the most mysterious thing that we can ever find out. The nature of reality is the mystery, and it's okay to just trust. Let yourself be taken, and just let go of thinking that you know anything. Maybe you don't have to know anything right now, because by not thinking, you are one with everything. You are in gnosis. And you can trust, let yourself be taken, because you will know everything you need to know when you need to know, but only when you trust and you let yourself be taken. This picture might seem intimidating. I have used it often before. But just by pointing it out, it has come from the unconscious into your conscious mind and can no longer affect you. This is what we call true awakening. This is what we call true protection from manipulation, which this channel is dedicated to do. We don't manipulate. We manifest. We create with imagination. We share information openly. What I wanted to talk about is, to wrap up this talk, is what I experienced today. I had a very, and in order to just ease that, because it's a little bit of a heavy picture, I had quite a interesting day, I may say. I got up in the morning, and as ever, that's why I'm doing this video, first thing I do is I have to get Errol out. And I make a coffee, I sit down, have a few sips of my coffee, and already in my unconscious, the stress is building. And I'm like, I have to get this done. Alright, so I open up my laptop, I open up the document, and I start writing and I start crafting, and I'm like, yeah, I could have this done by this and this time. And then I've got the whole day because I want to get my work done. Before midday would be great, because then we can take off and then we can print it out and get it done, and then I can have my day off. So what happened? I was tricked by this guy, Wetiko. Yeah. The most poisonous and the strongest medicine at the same time, beyond the two-dimensional matrix of good and evil. Move beyond. I was played, and I had a breakdown, wanting, because all I wanted was to help my friend out, to get Errol out, to get Leonie out. That's all I wanted. However, unconscious to myself, the truth of the matter is that I was my worst enemy. And that on the surface level of reality, it looks like I want to help. I want to free Errol and free Leonie and take the responsibility and help them. However, going deeper under the surface level of reality, I was my own worst enemy. I was blocking myself, stressing myself, not giving myself the time and space that I need in order to creatively, masterfully, with my divine imagination, masterfully solve the situation that we find ourselves in, which has happened for a reason, in order for us to grow and solve this situation. This is what I mean with transformation of perception. Before, I was stuck in the room. But then I realized the room was part of a much bigger picture, that beyond the surface level of the room, what I really needed to fix was not the situation or events that have taken place, but I needed to fix myself, which is I was the one who was putting myself under pressure. That was coming from me and me, myself only. So I'm taking full ownership for that. And the underlying dynamics of why I was putting pressure on myself is because of lacking in self-love. And many might say, oh yeah, he's going through the self-love thing. I solved that in 2009. And I'm telling you that I've been working on this also for a very long time. However, it is a spiral. Many, many onion layers to slay and to integrate. And the way I'm integrating my lack of self-love is to share this openly with you, to make use of my experience. So I am creatively transmuting the stuck energies of trauma and wetiko inside of myself, and also you get to learn from it. And what I'm referring to here is the dynamic of the protection of the abuser, which is fascinating because according to Paul Levy, the natural world itself has an embedded mechanism. What he describes is a natural mechanism of the natural world, which is keeping darkness from being illuminated. And that goes through protecting the figure of the abuser. And he says that by protecting the figure of the abuser, that is part of a deeper order inherent in nature. And this is very fascinating because he also talks about, which is part of initiation, that each one of us must pass through the archetypal struggle with demonic energy. Which means to transform the dark to the light, to transform our shadow self into our greater being, to become the golden self, the king archetype, the sovereign being that we are. However you want to call that, the corona, the crown. And the question here is, how do we slay and get rid and eliminate the protection wall that protects the abuser? Because isn't that the core issue that we have in the world? That criminals are being protected by the law. That government institutions and so-called legitimate governments around the world are protecting the mafia from law enforcement. That is the dynamic of the protection of the abuser. So we can observe that in our world, can't we? Which is the reason why I, as the diplomat of Earth, have dedicated my life into how to take down the wall of protection of the abuser and make the abuser liable. However, I had to realize that in order to make someone outside of you liable, you will have to hold yourself liable first, which is to slay the lies inside of yourself. And because this picture is very strong, I'll come back and explain that the healing comes through a transformation of perception. So the reason why we've not solved the situation with Errol and Leonie right now yet is because something inside of myself was still complicit with an energetic connection to the abuser. And in other words, the hidden dynamics within me, that was the part inside of me that was still complicit in the participation of my own abuse, was shown through the immense pressure I put myself under in doing the work, in getting Errol out. That showed that I was still abusing myself. And by still abusing myself, I was complicit in the protection of the abuser in a hidden way, because I was abusing myself by putting immense pressure on me. So that is the reason why Errol, for example, is not out yet. So, in other words, in the dreamlike state of reality, when I heal, when I stop abusing myself by putting so much pressure on myself and have to, then I can slay the energetic ties of the self-abuse I'm inflicting upon myself, and that will then free the energies to take down the wall of protection of the abuser and the abusers that I'm holding liable. As within, so without. And as I said, you can only hold someone liable when you first hold yourself liable, and that takes shadow work, emotional, transformational work. And that all has to do with the victim-perpetrator bonding that forms the foundation of the matrix, the artificial copy of reality that is a construct. Victim-perpetrator bonding, and we have to rise above that, because in victim-perpetrator bonding, the protection of the abuser is kept up, and we go round and round in the loop, protecting that abuser. We have to rise above the dynamics of victim-perpetrator bonding, which is the sovereign being. I am the law. This is a big statement. I am the law. I am the self. I am the one. I am the king. I am the sovereign. I am the law. High commanding all evil to leave. High commanding freedom for earth. High commanding freedom for mankind. I am the law. That's a whole different state of perception that is truly outside of the emotional bonding machine of the matrix of victim-perpetrator bonding in which the abuser is being protected. I am the law, in comparison to I have to get Errol out of there. The evil system doers, they've taken him, and now these evil, I have to get him out. It's us against them. Not when you appreciate that there is a deeper process that's going on. I am the law. And it's a truth. It's an absolute truth that, and this comes from self-reflection, that big weticos, okay, the psychopaths, the ultra psychopaths, big weticos have no real power of control over the sovereignty of a truly self-reflective mind, heart, and being. It's all about self-reflection. Reality is much more mysterious. It's a beautiful process to become sovereign. And as it goes in the Hermetic tradition, all paradoxes may be reconciled. Maybe it's not the ultimate truth that it's us against them. Like, the wise warrior might see it different. Maybe by knowing the enemy is the only way to know the self, and slay the enemy inside yourself, and then the enemy turns out to just have been there for you to discover your true power. However, it's an open book. All paradoxes may be reconciled. However, I do think that the end is always good, and when it is not good, it is not the end. Thank you for your attention.